recording, and we're on. Hi, everybody.
Andy and Jennifer Smith. We hope you're having a great night. I'm going to be sharing 3 tips to put the fun in dysfunctional relationships. Not that you have any dysfunction in your relationships, but first.
So I thought that was good. The fun in dysfunction, because it's actually in there. Don't know if you caught that, but when she said that was like, I thought that was a great way. But so, story. I love Chinese proverbs. I know a lot of people do, and maybe this is longer than a proverb, but maybe proverbs are short statements. but this is a story. Anyway, there's great wisdom in these old Chinese stories, and that's what they were meant for. And so there's the story of a woman, and you know how they used to have the pole across their back with chains that hooked to buckets or pots. And this woman had one of these and 2 clay pots that she carried water in, and she'd walk down to a stream near her home every day and fill the pots with water and then put that on her shoulders and carry that back to her home. And one of the pots developed a crack, and by the time she got back home every day, the pot was half full.
Or empty.
I was gonna say half empty, but we're thinking half full. The pot was half full, and this went on for quite a long time. And as the story goes, the pots have consciousness and they're aware. They think so. The pot, without the crack, was really proud of its accomplishments. Every day carried a full amount of water back to the house, while the clay pot with the crack became more discouraged and more ashamed every day that it was only doing half of what it was made to do. And one day down at the stream, the clay pot with a crack in it spoke to the woman and spoke of the shame that it felt for only doing half of what it could do. And the woman smiled at the pot and said, "Did you notice all the flowers on your side of the path back to my house? I was always aware of your flaw, of your crack, and I planted flower seeds along that path. And because of the water that leaked out all along the way, those flowers have grown, and I am able to cut flowers from that pathway every day and put them on my table. And because of your flaw, my home is graced with flowers every day." So there's a word that I'm gonna let you think on that story. There's a word that sometimes scares people, and Jennifer already said it: dysfunction. Our family's dysfunctional. Our relationship, our marriage is dysfunctional, and people like, that's a horrible thing, right? We don't want to have to admit that that's what's happening to us, that we're dysfunctional. And we actually heard from a marriage and family therapist one time, and he said, dysfunction, everybody has that. You don't need to get uptight over that. Everybody has dysfunction at times. And he says the key really is what's happening outside of your dysfunction times. Are you on purpose creating functional activities? Are you doing the good things? So dysfunction happens to everybody, and the key to not feeling dysfunctional is being on purpose about doing things that are functional in your family and in your relationships. So another analogy is growing a garden. Weeds happen. You know, this is just the world that we live in. You don't have to put any effort into weeds. They're just there. You don't have to put any effort into dysfunction in your marriage or in your family, right? It just shows up. It's there.
And it's normal. So don't think you're the only one with the weeds and the dysfunction, right? It's normal.
Weeds, dysfunction, whatever you want to call it, it happens all the time. It is just a part of being here. But if you want to have a beautiful garden, you've got to be consciously, purposefully putting flowers in and nurturing and growing those. I think you wanted to take it from here for a minute.
All right, so I'm going to share 3 tips. 3 tips right now to put the fun in the dysfunctional. So number one is you learn to be the peacemaker. And a great way to do that is to have a solution mindset. So it's very easy to see the dysfunction. It's very easy to see the crack in the pot. What is wrong? What is wrong with that person, right? And so a great example might be if your spouse comes home from work and they're really grouchy. Oh my gosh, that is no fun. And maybe you had a hard day too. And so here you've got this grouchy spouse, and there's that crack in your pot, right? And if you think back to that story though, what did the woman do? She planted seeds. She found a solution to make this dysfunction more beautiful. So, what might be a solution to a grouchy spouse when they get home from work? Well, maybe you could give them the space and the time to unwind whatever their stress was from the day, and go start dinner, take the kids away from the spouse and just give them a little bit of space. And in time you might see not only do they feel better because you've helped plant those seeds, but it might even break that pattern for them, that dysfunction, right, of grouchiness. So learning to be the peacemaker, learning to be looking for solutions and not just seeing the problems, right? And sometimes the solutions are more challenging. Sometimes if we have dysfunction that goes on for a long time, we do need professional help, and that's okay. But a lot of times, if we are consciously aware, looking for solutions, we will find some pretty easy solutions, okay? So tip number 2, to put the fun in dysfunctional, is adequate self-care. You can't pour from an empty cup. You can't water those seeds if you're empty, right? And so some of us think it's selfish to take time for ourselves, but it's not. Our health is important, social activities are important, and even developing and nurturing talents and hobbies and having time for ourselves is super important so that we can give more to those important relationships in our lives. Tip number 3 is finding ways to laugh and to have fun, whether we're working together or we're playing together, and just realizing, okay, we all have quirks, we all have weaknesses, and we have dysfunctions, and sometimes, unless of course they're super serious, we just need to laugh at them, right? And not take it so seriously.
I really think that it is possible that we can take that mindset, that whatever dysfunction you feel like is happening in your relationship or in your family, if you all can just come to an agreement that that's just a part of it. It's like, do you think your garden's failing when you see weeds in it? I keep coming to that because I'm a gardener. But why can't we, when dysfunction shows up, why can't we just laugh that off and say, well, there was our dysfunction for the day. Now let's go do something functional, right?
So I'm going to tell on myself one of my dysfunctions. He informed me before we did this message. Is I try to take charge too much. It's a little bit of my control issues. I just, want to be in control and take charge too much. And one of my revelations actually today is because it's his birthday. Yay! Happy birthday! Happy birthday to Andy. And so one of my revelations was to let him lead the day. Let him choose what we're going to do today instead of me be, okay, I don't want to do that. Let's do this. No, it's his happy birthday. And so even just a simple thing when we went to lunch, he wanted to walk instead of drive the car. And so, I just let go of that and let go of my dysfunction and tried to make it special for him.
So one of the things that, taking this whole topic back to that story, one of the things that I really loved is the woman in the story saw the flaw. She was aware of it the whole time. And she took advantage of that. She saw the value. So that's what we need to do in our relationships, in our families, in our homes, is not just notice the flaws. I think we're good enough at noticing the flaws, and that's part of what creates the dysfunction, is we're seeing the flaws without the value of the flaws. You know, this pot with a crack that leaked water, she saw value there. She saw a chance to water a pathway as she walked back home and create this beautiful flower garden along the path to her home. So life is complicated, relationships are complicated, but I know you guys are really smart and you are familiar with your dysfunctions and your challenges. Be creative. See the value in the flaws that show up in each other, and cherish those and take advantage of those things. And I just want to point out that it's not really the dysfunction in our relationships that really causes the painful emotions that we experience with that. It's the meaning that we attach to that dysfunction. When we think that this dysfunction is showing us that we're failing, that things are messed up, that they're never going to get better, that I can't deal with this any longer, those are false beliefs or limiting beliefs, or sometimes we just call them lies. They're just not true. We were made to navigate through these challenges. We were equipped with what it takes to overcome these things. We were made to laugh at dysfunction. Let's just say that. We have that ability. And so it's a choice. It's not the dysfunction that is really hurting you. It's your response to it. It's the meaning you attach to it. And so we can change the meaning. We can just say, well, you know, that was our dysfunction for the day. Let's do something functional.
So what is the value and the beauty of me being dysfunctional and trying to take charge too much?
Because most of the time, I prefer to let her make the decisions, because my personality is, there's a lot of things that I don't care one way or the other.
Where are we going to go eat?
And
what movie are we going to watch? And we'll sit, and if I don't make the decision, it'll take a long time to decide.
But there are some times when it's over the top. But so we can laugh about some of the dysfunction, some of the flaws that show up in our different personalities and our little quirks and things. And you guys can all do that. You can have fun with your dysfunction, really. Try it. And this is a share, right? Want to invite them to...
Yeah, share some value and some beauty that you might find in dysfunction in your family, in your marriage relationships. And let's try and have that solution mindset instead of just seeing the problem and just dysfunction. How can we plant seeds and create those beautiful flowers?
So every relationship, every family is just unique and different, and the dysfunctions you're experiencing are a little bit different. So it'd be really interesting to make a collection of what all of you are doing to see the value in the flaws and to have fun in your dysfunction. So give us a share.
Give us a share. Have a fun night. Have fun in your dysfunction.
Good night, everybody.
Bye, guys.